Happy Monday morning, everyone. I'm Rich Swerbinsky with the Mortgage Collaborative here with the Week 4 edition of Monday Mortgage Quarterback. Every Monday during the NFL season at 11 a.m. Eastern, I am joined by leaders from 6 TMC lender member companies representing the 6 cities involved in the 3 biggest NFL games of the week. We'll look to these correspondents to give us some insight into their local housing markets that they're representing, tying it back to our industry. Also have a little fun dissecting the NFL action and the 3 big games we've picked out from the day prior. And another very entertaining week of action, week 4 of the NFL, obviously highlighted by last night's really blockbuster showdown between the Bucs and the Patriots. Can't remember an NFL regular season game with as much hype and anticipation in my life. And we'll certainly get to that shortly. And the other 2 games that our correspondents are here to discuss. Some of the other highlights of yesterday's action in the NFL. The previously winless Jets and Giants both getting big upset overtime wins that I know knocked some people out of survivor pools to get both those teams off the schneid. My Cleveland Browns, little uneven performance from Baker Mayfield yesterday, but the defense really dominating after allowing opening drive by Minnesota, really allowing nothing else the rest of the game to get the Browns to 3-1 on the year. Seattle goes into San Fran and wins a big NFC West showdown against the Niners, one that saw Jimmy G get injured in the process. Pat Mahomes exploded yesterday. Much of the damage going to Tyreek Hill to get Kansas City back, the ship righted there. Cowboys go to 3-1 with the win over the previously unbeaten Carolina Panthers, and Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers take care of a Pittsburgh team that really looks like the end has come for in the AFC North. So with that, though, the 3 big games we picked this week, Bucs Patriots, obviously, the Denver Broncos with a pretty sound beating at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens, and the upstart Arizona Cardinals, 4-0 on the season, will be at the top of a lot of power rankings this week. Very interesting start for the Cardinals, and we'll get over their really shocking big sound defeat of the LA Rams. So before we do that, let's introduce our correspondents this week. Back again this week, representing the defending Super Bowl champs. Big win last night. You have your replica trophy. There it is, the replica Super Bowl trophy. The CEO of the mortgage firm, Brett Lindquist. Brett, good to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Representing the Boston, Mass area, former Clevelander, the SVP for Harbor One Mortgage, Dave Gravel. Dave, good to see you.
Hello.
Back again this week, representing Baltimore, Maryland, their SVP Capital Markets, Heidi Sinowick. Heidi?
Hey there, Rich. How are you?
Good to see you again. Nice win again for your Ravens last night. I think you're maybe their good luck charm.
Not possible. Great.
Representing a new city that we've yet to cover here, the Denver Broncos in Denver, Colorado. Megastar Financials Vice President of Credit Risk, Andy Marsh. Andy, good to see you, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Rich.
Absolutely. Representing the Phoenix, Arizona area and People's Mortgage Company. Got a chance to meet her in person last week at our conference. Their SVP of Mortgage Operations, Katie Klaus. Katie?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, and great
She's
win.
really happy to be here today.
I was joking with Rich before this started, and I'm like, so big games, that means I'm not going to ever have to be on this show. So sure, I'll sign up, and now we're 4-0. I guess that's what they were waiting for, just to, be represented.
Yeah, she was right, joking at the beginning of the season there wouldn't be any big Cardinals games, and now we have the Cardinals. They play the Niners next week, so they're on the slate again next week. So
oh, nice, very
you'll
nice.
be hearing from me again shortly. So.
Good.
And representing the LA Rams, back again, the president of Best Capital Funding out of LA, Mike Yates. Mike, good to see you again, bud.
Morning, everyone.
Excellent. Let's get right into the action. We're going to start with the Buccaneers and the Patriots game. Brett, really just a surreal setting. Tom Brady coming back, obviously, to the place where he played for 20 years. looked a little emotional last night. Like, I mean, it was not your typical Brady. I don't think he was as sharp as normal. I think he overthrew some balls. But at the end of the day, got it done, leading a field goal drive with a few minutes left in the game. Bucs with a comeback 19-17 victory. Your thoughts on the action last night?
Well, thanks for having me. I was a little worried because Pierre-Paul was out and Gronkowski was out. So, big guy on defense and offense. I see Dave waving around. Is it 6 Lombardi trophies over there?
Yeah, that would be all 6 of them. Yeah.
There you go. So, but they made it such about Brady and Belichick, but man, to be a kicker, to have, I don't know what the winds were, but that rain was torrential when he was trying to kick that field goal and it doinked off the crossbar. So we kind of lucked out, but hey, a win's a win.
And a good win because really New England played great last night. I thought it was a really brilliant game plan by Belichick. I think while we maybe didn't see the best of Brady, he walked away with the dub. We saw the best of Belichick and what has made him so great over the years. Really great game plan. Mac Jones, to me, looked excellent last night. I mean, he really looked good. Man.
Yeah, his first drive was incredible. And then the Belichick tried about 60 different defenses on Brady. So he was pulling all the tricks out of the bag.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Belichick said he's seen Brady in practice a couple of times. So he kind of had an idea.
It was an interesting chess match. And yeah, you could it was all game and a lot of good for New England. Again, Mac Jones looks very promising there. Looks like all the best of all the rookie quarterbacks so far. On the flip side, the doinked field goal at the end, so close, a chance to, and you just saw the pain in Belichick's face. But Dave, Steve Belichick, what is going on with Belichick? I mean, the mullet, the tongue. I mean, I woke up to nightmares of him invading my home last night. That guy is terrifying.
It gets even better. My kid used to dog walk for him. So
Oh, really?
yeah, we lived 2 doors down in a condo in Walpole, Mass. And my kid used to dog walk his dog for him. So he's actually a very nice guy.
Okay,
But
I was
anyway,
gonna ask, is he as creepy as he looks? Because I mean, it was really disturbing. I had to look away from the TV. Yeah. So
it was a big highlights. But let's talk about Mac Jones going 19 in a row there. That's pretty good. And he had 19 in a row, so not bad. And I don't know. I thought we played well. I really, really, really wanted us to hit that field goal just because I wanted to see what Brady would do with 50 seconds left, in Foxborough, in a driving rain, starting on the 25. And, I think that would have been a lot of fun to see.
yeah, it was a great game and it would have been fun. I think all just football fans, forget if you had a rooting interest or a financial interest in the outcome of the game. Yeah, I think wanted to see that field goal go in. So you could have seen Brady come out there with 50 seconds left and see what happened down the stretch. So
I heard they were trying to set a world record on the longest ovation. Did they set it? It was supposed to be 5 minutes. They do that?
I doubt it. I doubt it. It was too much. It was bad weather. I mean, it's still raining. It's still pouring out here right now. So it was a tough night for the crowd. But I don't think it lasted that long now.
moving our attention to the Broncos Ravens game, Heidi, we had you on after the big thrilling Sunday night victory that the Ravens had over the Chiefs, going in Denver yesterday, a team that had started out 3-0. And really it was the performance, not of Lamar Jackson's feet, but his right arm made some huge throws, a really highlight reel, diving bomb touchdown pass to Hollywood Brown. And just a really dominating performance. I mean, Baltimore just really completely dominated the game start to finish. And, you know, they look the part 4 weeks in. Your thoughts on the game last night as a Ravens fan?
I think the game went really well. Fantastic. And Brown, as you said, he did redeem himself with 47-yard catch. Lamar Jackson, 316 passing yards, which he's only surpassed 2 other times in his 4-year NFL career. And still have to say it with the rushing game, they are now tied with Pittsburgh with the 43rd consecutive 100-yard rushing game. Yeah, 143, tied with Pittsburgh. So I think it's looking pretty good.
That was really cool. For anybody that didn't see it, Baltimore, yeah, they tied an NFL record for the most games in a row with 100 yards rushing. They had 97 yards in kneel down mode at the end of the game and ran a play, an end around Lamar, where he got like exactly what he needed and then slid to keep that record going. But yeah, it was a really great performance by Baltimore. And Andy, from the Broncos perspective, again, they started out 3-0, but it was three relatively weak opponents. Still looks like a playoff team to me, or some team that's going to be in the mix for the playoffs. Teddy Bridgewater got hit really hard. He's in the concussion protocol right now, but they just couldn't get anything going offensively against the against the Baltimore defense. I think the stat I saw was they punted on 10 of their 12 possessions and only had punted 9 times in the first 3 games of the season. So a little uneven performance for the Broncos, but still 3-1 4 weeks in.
Yeah, luckily we got that last place schedule to start our season off against 3 cupcakes. So we're still looking pretty good as far as the playoffs go, but definitely met a real football team, I think, for the first time this year. And some of our high expectations, I think, were brought back down to reality. Losing Teddy at halftime, our offense didn't look great in the first half. And if it could get worse, it did. And it reminded us of, the last 5 years of Broncos offensive football since Peyton Manning hung them up. So we were really excited the first 3 weeks. Yesterday, definitely a step back in reality. And, at least we can take naps on Sunday afternoon if that's the type of offense we're going to put forward, because it's pretty boring, I have to say. The first 3 games were a lot of fun, but it's hopefully that was just a pause and a really good Ravens defense. And, they controlled the ball on offense really well. And the Steelers are in free fall. We have them next week, so maybe we get back on it. But will be interesting to see how the Broncos go down the road. Had 1 really good football team and didn't look good, and 3 really bad ones and looked great. So guess we're somewhere in the middle.
Moving our attention to the Cardinals Rams game. Katie, saw a stat yesterday. Only 4 teams previously in the history of the NFL have started the season with 4 games where they've put up 400 yards and 30 points in the first 4 games. All 4 of those teams went to the Super Bowl. That is the company that the Cardinals now find themselves in. Coming into the season, a lot of people really didn't know what to expect with Arizona. They'd made some off-season acquisitions that people were pretty bullish on. Kyler Murray was a little banged up last year. Jury a little out on Cliff Kingsbury. But, yesterday they hung 485 yards on a Rams defense that is, by all accounts, one of the best in football. You got to be jacked up as a Cardinals fan right now.
Yeah. So I also want to say thank you, because now that I have kids, I used to be a huge, Cardinals fan, and I don't really get to watch the games anymore. And I told my husband, I'm like, I got to work. I have to watch this game. I have to pay attention. So I got the whole afternoon off. And I went into it, apprehensive, because last year wasn't that good. We really haven't had a good season. And man, they were a lot of fun to watch. They were great on offense. Their defense didn't let the Rams score. I got a little worried in the second quarter when we couldn't put a touchdown in when we were right there in the red zone. But I was wondering if that was going to come back to haunt us, and it didn't. They had the game from really the beginning to end, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm going to have to start watching more now.
A couple off-season acquisitions, AJ Green and James Conner, both with big days yesterday for the Cardinals. And I think everybody knows Arizona's defense or offense is going to be good, and with Kyler Murray at the helm, but defensively, they really made Matt Stafford uncomfortable yesterday. A couple first half turnovers they forced, turned both of them into touchdowns. And really, Mike, that was really the difference in the game. As I saw it, the 2 turnovers in the first half, Arizona immediately converted them into touchdowns and sat with a nice first half lead. And your thoughts from the Rams fan perspective?
Oh, I was at the game yesterday, and it started out pretty good. The Rams drove the field and scored pretty quickly and easily, and stopped the Cardinals. And then it turned downhill after the turnovers, and the stadium got a little quiet yesterday. It was, I think when we watch grown men play football, they really play the games for a reason. It doesn't matter who's favored and who's supposed to win, But teams go out there and play hard. And I've watched Kyler Murray. I've been to a few Oklahoma games, and God, that guy is fast. He is tremendous, and he's looks like he's playing at a different speed than the other players. And the Rams didn't have an answer for him or what Kingsbury was doing. Wish it would have ended differently. I felt good for a week. I felt like I had the best team in the NFL for the week. This week, I don't feel like that. So I know next week we have Seattle, and that's going to be a tough game because Russell Wilson kind of a lot like Kyler Murray. So we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, we've talked on this show all year just about the NFC West, and I think you have showdowns. I think it's Rams, Seattle, and then Cards, Niners next week. So a little intra-divisional battle royal next week in a division where all four teams look the part. So, the Rams again, I think I had a couple bucks on the Rams yesterday, and yeah, same thing. Like out of the gate, I'm like, oh man, it's a good start, and then they just proceeded to get their head beat in for the next 56 minutes. But Rams, I think, are going to be fine, and will be one of those 7 teams in the playoffs at the end of the year when all is said and done. So, going back around to our correspondents now to get some insight into their local housing markets. And we'll start once again with Brett Lindquist, CEO of the mortgage firm in Tampa. Brett, last week you talked a little bit about just the transient nature of the Tampa Bay housing market and just how hot a market it has been, throughout the course of the last year and a half. Take us inside, give us a little local insight into the Tampa Bay housing market.
Yeah, so it's still the same. We've seen a good amount of leads coming in for our salespeople. There's a lot of people locally buying, but there's also a lot of people from out of state buying too. So it keeps the market heated up. We actually have a property that's in Orlando, or Kissimmee, which is near Orlando, and that we had to take back over. And we put on the market on Friday. We've had 5 offers. So just, Florida in general is doing really well, but the Tampa market is exceptional. Tampa, there's also St. Pete and Clearwater in this area, and there's a lot of Midwesterners and Canadians that come down to this area, and a lot of them are paying cash, but there's still a lot of government loans, and there's an Air Force base down here in Tampa also, so there's a lot of VAs, but it's a good market.
Excellent. Dave Gravel, SVP, Harbor One Mortgage, new city on the show. First time we featured the Patriots. Give us a little insight into the Boston, Mass housing market.
Hey, Rich, how are you? Boston, Mass is just expensive. On the news the other day, in the state of Massachusetts, they had that the median sales price is now $500,000 statewide. And it's driven by the 128 loop, that greater Boston loop, where 1 out of every 3 houses is over $1 million. So it's an incredible market. It reminds me of California. But Harbor One is all New England based. We do great in Maine and Western Mass and Rhode Island, et cetera. So with that said, it's a good mixture. We can't get government loans anymore. It seems like realtors just don't seem to accept them. It's such a competitive market that nobody wants to deal with a VA appraiser or an FHA, this or that or whatever. So I feel bad for that part of the market. I actually get veterans that call and say, hey, can you switch my approval to a conventional because my realtor won't get it accepted. So it's horrible from that point of view, but yet it's pretty good for a realtor, and it's pretty good for a home seller. If you're on the selling side, it's still a fantastic market. So things are good up here. Volume's good. LOs are busy, and we're not complaining up here in New England.
Thanks, Dave. Heidi Sinowick, SVP, Capital Markets for Capital Bank, based just outside of DC in the Maryland area. Had you on a couple weeks ago, giving us some insight into the Baltimore housing market, also just DC, Northern Virginia. Any trends, items of note, local insight into the Northern Virginia, Baltimore, DC housing market?
Sure. I focused on Baltimore a little bit for you. I picked up the phone and called one of our loan officers. And ultimately, Baltimore is probably not quite as hot as Boston, for example, where our Redfin complete score at 65. We are somewhat competitive and it does lag some other areas. However, supply continues to be a hurdle as well as sales prices. Median sales price for Baltimore itself, that's right around 305,000. That's still up year over year, but it's not up quite as much as some of the other areas. But the supply is slim. So if you're under 550,000, you're still seeing multiple bids. You're still seeing the contracts not getting accepted. At this point, it's the seller's market, as Dave mentioned. They want no financing contingencies. They want the appraisal contingencies waived. They simply want the cleanest contract possible. They're not going to take it as a VA or FHA. And if you're trying to use some of the housing finance agency products, those aren't getting accepted either, depending on, again, sales price that you're looking in. Loan officer this weekend, he had a borrower out and he's had this guy pre-approved. He's had multiple contracts or put in multiple contracts over time. He lost out on it again, and this one ultimately went 112% higher than asking.
Crazy times. And yeah, no apparent solution in sight to the inventory issues in our industry. It's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out.
Hey, Rich, I was a little general on my comments, but these guys are giving some great detail. Just a couple about the Tampa Bay market. The average sales price is up 20.1% to 410. The year-to-date sales are up 13.9% in this market, and 30% of all sales are cash. So that's what's going on in Tampa.
Man, interesting stuff. Thank you, Brett. Dave Marsh, VP Credit Risk, Megastar Financial, Megastar, very well-known lender for many years in the based out of the Denver market. I think the growth of the Denver area and housing market has been well chronicled even pre-pandemic. It's seen a lot of growth over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years. How has the Denver housing market reacted post-pandemic? We send out the Redfin Complete Score, very high housing market in terms of just activity. Take us inside the Denver housing market.
Yeah, thank you so much. We just came off a really crazy busy summer. I grabbed a couple stats. So our median sales price in April broke 500 for the first time. And in July, that number was 581. So just shows you over the course of just the summer, how fast we're going up in values. Our average sales price in July was $687,000. So kind of mimicking what some of these other guys have said, affordability is an issue, supply is obviously an issue, and then definitely a seller's market. Last month, one, bright shining ray, I guess, if you want to look for that, is the days on market went from 14 on average up to 24. So still an extremely healthy seller's market, but not seeing, homes going on the market Thursday afternoon with all offers have to be in by 5 o'clock on Sunday. And then the seller makes a decision. And we are seeing prices, even in the $1 million sales price luxury home range, going 1 to 200,000 over market pretty quickly. So hopefully with a little bit longer days on market, some of that really competitiveness slides back and we get to a little bit more of a balance, but still very much seller's market.
Thank you, Dave. Katie Klaus, SVP Operations, People's Mortgage Company. Every home value report that has come out in the last 4 or 5, it seems like Phoenix is like the top metropolitan market in America in terms of home appreciation. Case Shiller's the big one, specifically has mentioned Phoenix as the top appreciating market in America, along with, I think, Seattle. I think I saw home values are up like 32% year over year in Phoenix and the surrounding metropolitan areas. Crazy housing market, obviously, out in Phoenix. Take us inside it.
Yeah, so we, especially with COVID, we got a lot of people, a lot of transplants moving from LA and Seattle even, and just kind of across the country, moving out here because it was more affordable, especially the California market. A lot of the people who are either investing or just moving out here because of, various reasons, are coming from California. And so that kind of helped drive up the cost of the housing. We're seeing about 5 to 10% over ask still in the loans that we're able to do, but a lot of them, like everybody else is saying, they're coming in, it's a full cash offer, it's over ask. There's a huge inventory problem. We actually have, in our company's history, we've been around for 21 years, the most pre-qualified buyers in the history of the company, and we cannot find homes for them. The majority of them are first-time home buyers, or their cap just is not, they can't find anything. And some of them, I think in July, we had a 30% fallout because they found something, they put an offer in, and then the appraisal came in too low, and they just didn't have the funds to make up the difference. So it's very frustrating from a lender's perspective to see these people coming in with cash over ask, waiving contingencies, because that's not the kind of buyer that we're trying to help put into a home. The other problem is our income. So our housing market is very affordable, but our incomes don't match. So it's not like a California or Silicon Valley where those people are getting paid, a huge amount of money. Our income really hasn't changed over the years. And so the housing market the cost has gone way up, but the salaries don't match that. So we're seeing a lot of problems, similar problems with, the rest of the company. But I did get some good news where I was talking to some realtor friends, and they did say they're starting to see a lot of buyer fatigue where people are just giving up. And so they're hoping, well, they're not hoping, but we're hoping that maybe the market will stabilize a little bit so we can get some of these buyers who deserve to be in a home into a home.
Interesting insight. Thank you, Katie. And yeah, I think it backs up what just those of us in the industry have been hearing and following about that market over the course of the last year. Mike Yates, president of Best Capital Funding. Between the Rams and the Chargers, we've had an LA representative on almost every show. Both teams are off to good starts. My Browns go out to LA next week to take on the Chargers. So, they're going to be featured again next week, city of Los Angeles. But LA market, obviously a massive and very multifaceted metropolitan market. Give us some insight into the LA housing market.
Well, our median price is $760, which is just a ton of money. And I don't know where buyers are getting the down payments to make these purchases. I've had a couple of recent transactions where the buyers bid over asking, waived the appraisal contingency, and went on to complete the purchase where they had to bring in $50,000, $75,000 more to make the purchase. So these are people in all, the technology businesses that make lots of money, but I truly don't know where. I don't see the loans where borrowers can make the smaller purchases here in LA. It's all my smaller purchases are out in Riverside County and have a big Dallas deal, but the sales in Los Angeles, it just boggles my mind where buyers have the money to make the purchases, and they're, like I said, waiving the appraisal contingencies and going forward with the purchase anyway.
It's going to be interesting to see. You've heard anecdotally on this show and just from others in the industry over the course of the last year and a half that if it's cities like Phoenix or Denver, that you've seen some. Nashville is another one we've had correspondence on, saying that people have been relocating there from the coast, some of the higher priced markets. It'd be interesting to see some of the more concrete, like post-pandemic geographic relocation statistics, once all the dust settles, and see if we do have any substantive, kind of relocation of people across America and how that all plays out. But one of many, many interesting things pandemic related that has happened to our industry. So, well, as always, want to start by thanking our correspondents this week. Really appreciate you guys taking some time out to join us and give us a good update on your local housing market and your NFL teams. Our podcast listeners, Brett is once again hoisting the replica Lombardi Trophy.
We're coming after that. We're coming after that. You better get used to holding it this year, because I'm going to have it next year.
I would not want to have to try to tackle Kyler Murray. My gosh, that guy's got moves. Holy
Yeah,
moly.
just because you have Tom Brady, who's just a specimen of, I can't even get off the couch at 44, like he's playing a full game, but we're going to steal that.
Oh, too funny. And want to thank our live audience and where most of you listen, our podcast listeners. We record this live every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern and shortly hitting the Apple and Spotify podcast store shortly after that. So really appreciate you taking 30 minutes each week to join us. And until next week at 11 Eastern, thank you and have a great week, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.